The scales of equal justice. In the heart of a bustling city where the corridors of power meet the raw reality of daily life, there exists a sanctuary of order known as the courtroom of Judge Ebony K. Williams. To many, it is just a room with wood-paneled walls and a heavy bench, but to those seeking clarity, it is the place where the only thing that matters is the perspective of the woman behind the gavel. Judge Williams often tells those who enter her chambers to read the nameplate clearly. It says Judge Ebony K. Williams, and she makes it known that in this particular courtroom, the only thing that matters is how she sees the truth. She carries with her a unique blend of heritage and experience, coming from North Carolina by way of Louisiana, seasoned with a touch of West Coast cool and sharpened by a distinct New York edge. Her mission is simple yet profound: to ensure that equal justice, the most important value of the country, remains accessible to everyone. She strives for freedom and integrity, acting as a voice for the voiceless and holding the accountable to their actions. In her eyes, the law is a tapestry woven from all sectors of life, encompassing people who are black, white, purple, gay, straight, or queer. This is the essence of her court. The atmosphere was charged with a mix of frustration and regret as two young men, Mark Ward and Jonathan Green, stood before her. The dispute seemed mundane at first glance, a broken television and a lost job, but as the layers were peeled back, it revealed a story of friendship strained by simple mistakes and heated emotions. Mark Ward, the plaintiff, was seeking $425 for his destroyed television. Jonathan Green, the defendant, was not only contesting the claim but countersuing for $1,550, representing a week of lost wages. Judge Williams began the proceedings by addressing Mark Ward, asking him to explain why they were in court. Mark explained that he was suing his former roommate for breaking his television during a physical altercation. He described a scene that began when Jonathan came home from a corporate event, accusing Mark of being the reason he was fired. What started as a verbal argument quickly escalated into a scuffle. Pushing led to more shoving, until Mark was knocked into a coffee stand. The television sitting on top of that stand fell face first onto the ground, shattering any hope of a quiet evening. Mark, being a person who valued preparation, presented the court with a receipt for the television and a photo of the damage. Judge Williams looked at the image and sighed, noting that it was indeed a total loss. The judge then turned her attention to Jonathan Green to understand what could possibly lead two grown men to throw hands over a television. Jonathan explained that the root of the conflict was a borrowed suit jacket. He had a retirement party for his company, an important event held at an indoor and outdoor venue. In a moment of chivalry when the rain began to fall, Jonathan offered the borrowed jacket to his boss to keep her dry. However, as they stepped inside and he shook the moisture from the garment, a bag of marijuana fell out of the pocket right in front of his boss and the assembled executives. The consequences were immediate. When Jonathan walked into work on Monday morning, he was fired on the spot. As a freelance graphic designer, finding permanent, full-time work was rare, and he felt the loss deeply, especially with the rising tide of artificial intelligence making his field even more competitive. When Jonathan returned home, brooding over his misfortune, he found Mark sitting on the couch watching that very television. He confronted Mark about the hidden stash in the jacket. Judge Williams clarified a crucial point, asking if Mark had given him the jacket or if Jonathan had simply taken it. Jonathan confirmed that Mark had personally selected and handed him the jacket. Mark admitted to the court that he had forgotten the cannabis was in there. He had purchased it previously, smoked on the balcony, and then tucked the bag away before heading back to his television program. He confessed to being a little inebriated at the time, a detail Judge Williams noted with a nod of appreciation for his honesty. The tension in the apartment had reached a breaking point. Mark argued that he did not feel as guilty as he might have because this was actually Jonathan's third warning at work. He felt Jonathan was throwing him under the bus for a career that was already on thin ice. Jonathan admitted to the prior warnings, though he claimed they were out of his control, one for being late and another due to a difficult client who complained to his supervisors. The bag of marijuana was simply the third strike. As the scuffle was described, It became clear that while there were no fists thrown, the aggressive pushing and shoving between the two grown men was enough to cause the accident. Judge Williams, having heard enough, prepared to rule. She began with the counterclaim, dismissing Jonathan's request for $1,550. She reasoned that while the marijuana incident was the final straw, Jonathan's termination was the result of a cumulative history of professional failures. He had to take responsibility for his own career standing. Turning to the primary claim, she addressed Mark. She expressed concern that his judgment had been impaired by his own choices, noting that when a friend is heading to a professional event, one should be more intentional about helping them succeed. However, she concluded that Mark's simple negligence did not justify Jonathan's aggressive physical response. The act of pushing Mark into the furniture was the direct cause of the property damage. Therefore, she ruled in favor of the plaintiff, ordering Jonathan Green to pay $425. She offered a final piece of advice to Jonathan. In the future, when his job is at risk, he should ensure he provides his own professional attire and takes full responsibility for how he shows up. The court transitioned to the next case, one involving a different kind of loss, the loss of companionship. Tom Frisk stood as the plaintiff, suing his ex-girlfriend, Alicia Chin, for $95 related to adoption fees. But the money was the least of his concerns. He wanted his two cats, Pearl and Opal, back. The couple had lived together, and during their time, they had welcomed these two fur babies into their home. Tom claimed that after he lost his job and fell on hard times, Alicia began to tear down his character, accusing him of not contributing enough, even though he claimed to be covering the rent. Alicia countered that Tom's unemployment made the situation unsustainable. She presented evidence that she had been the one paying for the medical fees for the cats. The breaking point for their relationship came when Opal, one of the cats, stepped on a nail and required emergency surgery. Alicia, working extra shifts at a car dealership to make ends meet, asked Tom to bring the cat home after the procedure. Instead, Tom called her at the last minute claiming he had a job interview, but when she arrived home, she found him playing video games. The lack of emotional support and perceived financial instability led her to take the cats and leave. Judge Williams examined the adoption forms and saw that both names were on the documents. It was a shared responsibility that had turned into a bitter tug-of-war. Alicia admitted that she had taken the cats without telling him, though she felt she could provide a better life for them. While Judge Williams expressed that it was wrong to keep the cats away from someone who had cared for them, her legal remedy was limited. She could not force the return of the animals under these specific circumstances, but she could address the financial aspect. Since Tom had paid the $95 adoption fee for one of the cats, he was entitled to that reimbursement. In a final ruling of the day, Judge Williams found in favor of Tom Frisk for the amount of $95. The emotional wounds of the breakup remained visible as the parties left the room, a reminder that the law can settle accounts but rarely heals hearts. As the doors of the courtroom closed, the echoes of these lives remained, a testament to the pursuit of integrity, the complexity of human error, and the enduring necessity of equal justice.